and then fold the splint so that we have the proper length. Once again, I would create the basic bends. That is, I would create a bend or trough the full length of the splint. And I can deepen that trough again by squeezing in my palm. I can lay Patty's entire arm in the splint, wrap it with gauze, and we would have a nice splint for dislocated elbow. For a dislocated shoulder, we want to create an airplane splint. We do this, first of all, by making an equilateral triangle, or what I estimate to be an equilateral triangle. Then, after that, we begin by making basic bends, that is, creating a trough. This time, I squeeze quite deeply so that we have a deep trough. On the other side, again, I create a basic bend, and I squeeze deeply to create a deep trough, and I hook the two edges of the splint together. I want to create strength in the final limb, and I do this by creating a little fold. Once again, the old basic bends, and I now have an airplane splint. So if Patty has an anterior dislocation of the shoulder, and most dislocations are anterior, her arm will be abducted away from the side and externally rotated, and she'll want something under there to support it, a pillow or an airplane splint. So what I do is simply place the splint in this manner. I have the patient hold it. They're very happy to do that, and they support their arm on the splint, and they'll support it as long as need be. The nice thing is the splint can be moved forward or to the side in any position that the arm is dislocated. The nice thing about the SAM splint is that it not only fits adults' arms, but it also was designed to fit young, small legs. So what we do is create the same basic bend, just the same technique that we used before. Now, Heather, can you come in here and we'll demonstrate how this splint works on the leg. Can you lie down there for her, honey? Thank you. And what we do is simply take the splint, the sugar tong splint, and we put it on the young lady's limb, and we wrap it with some type of cloth or gauze, and I think you can see that we've secured her for a broken ankle or a broken tibia. It's very simple to use. It works excellent for kids. The splint was designed to use on children on their legs, but it also is excellent for using on their arms because it's adjustable. Can you come here, Jay? Thank you, pal. Now, this is going to be too long for Jay's arm, so what we do is we just roll the splint down till we get to the appropriate size for Jay, and that's going to be about like that. And then we create our little trough once again. And if Jay had an injured form or something, we then set Jay's form, as you can see, comfortably into this splint, and once again we would secure it with gauze or any kind of wrap. Thanks, Jay. That was great. For an injured ankle, once again, we create the basic bend. We fold the splint on itself in this manner, and again create a trough with our fingers and thumbs, and we deepen the trough. But now you're getting bored with this, and that's good because it means you're learning how to do it. Patty, could you come here a moment? Now, Patty had an injured ankle. We would put this around the ankle in a sugar tong fashion. We could put cold wrap inside of there, or ice pack, or anything inside, and wrap it and secure it to the extremity. You can x-ray again right through it without removing it. In a wilderness situation, you might want to consider a different type of ankle splint. In that circumstance, the patient may have to walk out on their own. You may consider a figure-8 splint. Thank you, Patty. We put the splint around like this, and then we wrap it a little bit high on the ankle like that. You have to work with this from time to time to get it just right. And then that makes a solid splint, but if we want it to be even stronger, you can take a second splint and apply it like this and secure it with tape. And this really creates a nice situation with the patient who has to walk out on their own. For an adult tibia, again, you want to create a sugar tongue, but a very large one. And you do this by taking 2 splints. Again, you've created the basic bend, or the fold, the full length of the splint. Now you have a long, rigid limb, and you make a second long, rigid limb. You create a little box for the foot. You fit the 2 together in this manner, and then apply it to the tibia, just like this. And of course, you would secure this again with whatever wrap you had available. And this creates an excellent splint for an injured tibia, fractured tibia, or for that matter, an injured knee. With regards to cervical injuries, I suggest you use whatever your protocol recommends. Circumstances could arise when you don't have a C-collar available. If that occurs, you can use the SAM splint. First of all, you pick an area approximately 6 inches from the end of the splint and create a fold like this. That is the anterior post of the C-collar. You then create little flares for the mandible. So now we have an anterior post and we have some flares for the mandible. Sherry? The most important thing in a C-collar is this chin-chest distance. So I put my little post under Sherry's neck. I noticed that there's some extra distance here, and I'm going to have to take up that slack. So then SAM splint is brought around and pressed onto the chest in this manner. So we now have the correct chin-chest distance. This is absolutely accurate for Sherry. It probably wouldn't be perfect for me. The next thing I need to do is to take up the circumferential slack, and I create a post on the side like this, and I create a post on the other side like this. We now have an anterior post and 2 side posts, and if I want to, I can squeeze in the back and create a posterior post. And if Sherry turns, you can now see and appreciate that she has a nice contour for her mandible and an anterior post, side post, and posterior post. You simply secure this with tape. For a lumbosacral support, you take a piece of tubular stockinette and you simply roll it over the splint. Naturally, you could fold the splint if you wanted to compensate for waist size. Unfortunately, my waist fits this splint very well. You take the splint like this and you put it around the waist and you tie it as tight as you want for a lumbosacral support or kidney support, and you'll find it's quite comfortable and it works very well. Naturally, if you had a pelvic fracture, you could take the splint in a similar manner and put it around the pelvis and tie it tightly to support a pelvic fracture. We also make small SAM splints. We refer to these as baby SAMs. They make excellent finger splints. You can again create a little fold to make a rigid splint and place the injured finger in the splint. You can fold the splint over to create a finger guard. Also, we sell a number of these splints for neonatal IV boards. They're adjustable to the size of the little neonate, and of course they're well padded and easily washable. For extra strength, you can create a T-bend or I-beam. The way you do that is you take the splint and you create a fold in this manner, and then again you start at the end and create a little T-bend. This creates a T and an I-beam. Then you take the opposite side and fold it over in any manner you desire. Fold that to the arm, and you have a splint that's extremely